Hi, I'm Amy Dunki, coming at you from Washington, D.C. But I'm a Vermonter. I grew up there. I lived there for most of my life, surrounded by really beautiful mountains and really being able to spend a ton of time outside around lots of really beautiful, wonderful things. And a lot of those peaceful moments, I've had to be a little bit more intentional about seeking these days. So I've had to become a little bit more aware of my environment and being much more mindful about the way that I start my day and even the way that I end it. So one thing that I really noticed was that if I wake up in the morning and put on some jazz music, it really brightens up my entire day. A little bit of Benny Goodman or Ella Fitzgerald really sets me right. And then I settle down to work and find myself sitting on my computer for definitely way too long of a stretch at a time and inevitably getting exhausted. And instead of grabbing a cup of coffee, I jump around a little bit and get my energy from doing some stretches or exercises or even a little bit of midday yoga, which is also one of my favorite things to do at night before going to bed. So that really helps get me all the way through my day. Now, the last thing that I really want to talk about, which is so important to me, is food. I have always loved food. It is definitely one of my love languages. And food is so important because it is this moment where we get to stop for a little while and put everything down and take a step back and really be with ourselves and with other people around us. So the food that we eat is also really important. And getting fresh ingredients from farmers and from farmers markets or from small locally owned butcher shops, those things really bring me happiness because I know that I'm making a real impact by where I'm putting my dollar. So anytime I'm spending money or spending time on anything, on any organization or business, whatever I'm doing, I always make sure to do a little bit more research and make sure that they believe in what I believe in, which is why today I'm so excited to be working with Perrier because so much of what they do is really taking some massive strides in the world as far as reducing waste and changing the way that we package things and really making a positive impact on our environment. Mindfulness and sustainability is a lifelong journey. And while it may not always be the easiest path to start down, I promise you the rewards quickly outweigh the challenges. Habits are powerful and they are easy to maintain, but the tough part is building them. That's what I want to talk about now. Habits. In two essential spheres of focus, food and exercise. So first, food. I've been in the hospitality industry my whole life, which often means that I am taking care of everyone except for myself. It wasn't very long ago that I was definitely guilty of burning the candle at both ends. When the pandemic hit, I realized I had no idea how to have a Friday night without being behind a bar, and I definitely had no idea how to shop for a full week of food, let alone prepare it. After a lifetime of family meal and reheating takeout, it was time to teach myself how to cook. I have worked for some truly sensational chefs, so I was used to eating incredible handmade pastas and decadent desserts, usually while standing up and eating as fast as I could, but the environment was incapable of tarnishing the excellence. Now, my cooking was definitely not up to par, and is still a far cry from professional, but I find myself making dishes that make me say, damn, that's delicious. Far more than I ever thought they could. I have always sought the restaurants that thoughtfully sourced their ingredients, but doing it myself was a whole other story. It took me a while to hone it in, but less than a year later, now I know which markets to go to for which ingredients and which markets I should always allow for a little more time so I can have a chat about new dishes to try or inevitably hear about how their family is doing. Going shopping for food brings me an indescribable amount of joy. It is now a favorite part of the week, knowing that I am supporting the people who are holding up the fabric of my community and keeping us all fed. When it came to produce, I realized that I could not afford to keep buying basil to put on everything. It went bad so quickly in my fridge, and thus began my borderline obsession with plants. This, oh no, where did she go? Here she is. Gosh, they do move a little bit, but not that much usually. Yeah, no, that was my fault. This is my hydroponic basil plant. So see, she's in some water right here. And she lives in water instead of dirt. And that's just rainwater, not Perrier. Save the good stuff for yourself. Watching, oh my gosh, it smells so good. Watching plants grow and react to their environment has been such a spectacular journey. I highly recommend getting your hands in some dirt or some water. It is rejuvenating. Okay. So, I'm still not perfect. Sometimes my beautiful, in-season, locally grown produce goes bad before I have the chance to eat it. Now that I was eating at home all of the time, I was throwing out a ton of food. The food that ends up in landfills never fully decomposes, and it emits a methane gas that is incredibly harmful to the environment. So I started keeping all of my old food scraps in the freezer and every week dropping them off at farmers market compost tents. Now, you may not be so lucky as to have a compost tent at a year-round farmers market nearby, so you may have to do some research to find out where you can compost your food scraps locally. If you have to pay for a membership, they'll often give you a nutrient-rich compost in the spring. But you may also not have an easily accessible compost hauler near you. But find the people who are fighting for them to exist, because they are there, I promise. The Sierra Club is a great resource and has tons of local chapters across the country that work towards both zero waste and plastic-free solutions. I'm so excited to make you this drink, but first I want to talk about the inspiration. So mindfulness is a really important concept to me because it really helps to center me and make me appreciative of the world that we live in. And there's really nothing that embodies that nearly as truly or fully as plants. Plants bring me an insurmountable amount of joy. Whether it's something just as beautiful as a Dracaena or as awe-inspiring as a Marginata, whose leaves actually move up and down throughout the day in order to capture as much light as it can. Or if it's this basil. Now, growing herbs has been a really important lesson for me. And basil has always been one of my favorite ingredients. I love putting basil in salads. I love putting it in pastas, in most dishes. I love putting it in drinks. And it's also packed with all of these vitamins. Vitamin A, K, D. It has iron, magnesium, omega-3, and it is even linked to possibly helping cure depression. Now, that's not fully scientifically proven, but yeah, I'll give it a shot. So basil is already this really nutrient-rich and delicious herb. And one day I came downstairs and I realized that I had forgotten to water it, and it looked like it was dead. It was limp. The leaves were all shriveled up. It looked like a total goner. But I gave it some water, and I hoped that it would come back to life. And sure enough, this is the same basil plant that has continued to provide beautiful leaves and wonderful nutrients for me. So I am very grateful to it for its resiliency and also for its deliciousness, but mostly for its resiliency and its nutrients. Now, the next ingredient that I really wanted to highlight is raw honey. So raw honey has a special place in my heart. So this particular raw honey, oh my gosh, raw, unfiltered, beautiful, creamy, savory. You don't often think of honey as being savory, but this particular honey is from northern Vermont, and the bees are collecting most of their pollen from red clovers, from wildflower fields, and so it has this beautiful, delicate aroma and flavor as well. And you have all of these phytonutrients in there that really help to boost your immune system. It is antibacterial, it's antifungal. People put it on their face and it makes their skin better. I mean, raw honey has an incredible number of uses. But it's really important, especially in this drink. When you're putting raw honey into a drink, you have to dilute it a little bit. Now, once you dilute it, it is no longer shelf stable forever. So this is another amazing thing about raw honey, is that in its raw form, it is actually shelf stable forever. In fact, archaeologists recently found some raw honey in a cave. Well, it was a tomb. So archaeologists recently found raw honey in a tomb in Tbilisi, just outside of the city limits in the Republic of Georgia. And it was almost 6,000 years old, and it was still good. Now, once you add water to it, it starts to gain the ability to expire. So you want to be really careful to not add water to it that is too hot, because it will actually impact the flavor and it will affect the nutrients and actually make it less healthy the more you heat it up or the more hot water you add to it. So you want to make sure that your water is not above 110 degrees when you're making anything to turn this honey into something that can be stirred into this cocktail. So the next thing that we're going to add to this drink is ginger. So ginger root has for a very long time been used as a traditional cure for a plethora of illnesses and viruses. It has a bioactive compound called gingerol that can settle your stomach. It can even possibly help with prevention of cancer, of arthritis, of osteoporosis, and Alzheimer's. So it's not entirely proven, but if there's a chance, I'll give it a shot. Plus, ginger really adds this spice characteristic to anything that you put into it. And the best part about this recipe is that you don't need to peel the ginger at all. All you do is you roughly chop it, and with the basil and the water that's not too hot and the raw honey, equal parts into a blender. You're going to strain it, and you have this magic juice. The next thing that I want to talk about, which is related to mindfulness, is apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar is going to be much more shelf stable than citrus that you might have in your fridge. Now, if you don't have apple cider vinegar, or if you don't want to use it, you can absolutely substitute this for lime juice. not a problem. But this drink is so good with apple cider vinegar, and apple cider vinegar has a ton of health benefits and nutrients. It is good for you, it's cleansing, and when you shake it, it creates this really rich, beautiful froth on the top of your drink, which makes it a little extra beautiful and more fun to drink. So, one of the most important things about this drink are the bubbles. So I used Perrier pineapple for this, but there's no sweetener in Perrier pineapple, so if you wanted to, you would absolutely be able to use any of the Perrier or any of the other Perrier flavors, but in particular, I really liked pineapple. First of all, it goes well with all of these different flavors, but also pineapple is a symbol of hospitality. And there are very few things that I love in this world more than hospitality. Being able to create an experience and being able to engage in a way that is memorable and hospitable is really important to me. So using Perrier pineapple really speaks to that particular passion of mine. Now, another passion of mine is sustainability. And Perrier has been on the forefront of really pushing for sustainable packaging worldwide and pushing even beyond recyclable packaging and really continuing to push all of the research that's going into sustainable packaging. And it is a movement that I can really get behind. So pineapple Perrier is definitely one of the best parts of this drink. Now, as a garnish, on top, I told you that one of the things that I hated was waste. These limes were about to go bad in my fridge. Limes go bad fairly quickly, and I hate throwing them away, especially because they traveled so far to get to me. So instead of throwing it away, and I can't compost it because compost doesn't like citrus, I sliced it and put it in a dehydrator for 7 or 8 hours. And it has this beautiful purple color in the middle. It is very fragrant and can sit right on top of my cocktail. And the best part is that it lasts for much longer than citrus will last in your fridge. So I'll just put a cloth over it and keep it in my cupboard and very quickly add some aromatics and fancy up any drink that I choose to make. Now I'm ready to make this drink. So the first thing that I'm going to add is this blend. So the basil, the ginger, and the raw honey. I want 1.5 ounces of that. And then 1/2 ounce of apple cider vinegar. And I'm going to shake it on a large ice cube. Shaking on a large ice cube is really helpful for getting the most aeration as you possibly can while minimizing the rate of dilution. Beautiful. Oh, that smells amazing. And I always want to use the coldest glassware as I can, and also use a large ice cube that I'm pouring over, again to minimize the rate of dilution. So, in order to mix this drink as best as I can, I'm going to take this very cold Perrier. I'm going to pour 2 ounces very gently in order to try and preserve the bubbles. That's also why I kept it so cold. I'm going to very gently pour it into here first before I put the rest into the glass. Now, beautiful. Ugh, all of those bubbles, gorgeous. And the very last bit of this is going to be the garnish. So, I'm going to take a sprig of basil, because this is a spruced up sprig after all. I'm going to pinch this right above the node so that it can continue to grow where I pull it from. And I'm going to gently release the oils by cracking little bits of the spine and the leaves just by slapping it gently. Oh my gosh, so fragrant, amazing. And then your beautiful lime wheel. Cheers. You should definitely make one of these. Taking the time to take care of yourself, your body, your mind, and your earth is one of the most rewarding ways to spend your time. Educate yourself and inspire others. Keep an eye out for local legislative community hearings and go. So often at these hearings, the only people who come out are vehemently against the proposals. So being a positive voice can make a huge impact. Look up food waste options in your area. Challenge yourself to live plastic-free for a month. You'll be surprised how hard it is, but also proud of yourself for making a difference. Be intentional and make sure that you are setting habits properly. Setting intentions, if you will. And putting friction where you need it and putting reminders where you need it and taking friction away where you don't need it. Thank you to Perrier for an unwavering commitment to building a better future. And thank you for watching this video, for listening, and for taking steps towards intentionally seeking joy, mindfulness, and sustainability. To learn more about Mindfulness Matters, check us out at fohealth.org. Thank you.